I've started the recording.
Thank you. All right, welcome everyone. And today we will talk about a few things. Strongly typed view, following on last week's session from Joanna. View model, list view, layout view and its sections, view start and view imports. Okay. And so part 25 talks about strongly typed view in ASP.NET Core MVC. There are three ways to pass data into the view. It's view data and view back, which we covered last week, and strongly typed view. So the benefits of using strongly typed view is you have code IntelliSense, compile time error checking, and this avoids developers spelling mistakes in the code. Okay, I'm going to try to demo. I hope it will all work, but I have a backup if it doesn't. So from last week, we have made an employee class. We have, last week, we had figured out how to show a details view, okay, using the view back and view data. So we have in MVC, controllers, models, and views. So in controller, we have index, which is the default, and details, which show the detail of the employee. So what we have from last week, we have something like this. Actually, this is probably a bit modified. So we were using view back and view data to pass the data into the employees details page here. Okay, so when you look at details, you can see I'm using view back for the page title and model name, email, and department. Anybody wants to remind me how we passed the data last week? Is it this way or using view bag? I think we use view bag, right? We say view bag or view data, and we say employee is the model. Is it something like that?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. And so if we don't pass anything in, we get the view back in here by just referencing view back instead.
Mm-hmm.
Is it employee? Is it small letters?
No, it will be capital, I guess.
Capital. You're right.
I think for the employee, you have to create, you have to do like a little section of C# code and create the employee. Oh, that's what no, I'm sorry. You're right.
Okay, let's try this.
I was thinking of the other.
Maybe the code is a bit too small. I'll try to increase the font size. So this is the home view, which currently we are just returning a string for now. Later in this session, we'll learn how to use the list view. Okay, so we are just returning name, Mary. And if I go to home details, and I can see the details here by passing in the view bag. So when we are using strongly typed, we will change this. We can use the model. So if we go back to home controller in the details view result, we can actually do like this. And here you can have different overridden functions that takes different parameters. So you can actually pass the model here. So if you pass the model, we have both the model and the view bag to be used in our details CSHTML. So we can use model with the capital letter. And the model, if you remember just now, is the employee object. So we can just directly refer to it as if it's an employee object. But as you can see, when I go dot after model, there is no IntelliSense. And you have to type out the property. So because of that, it is still not considered strongly typed. So in order to use the strongly typed model, we declare it using the small letter model like this at the top. And you reference it to the actual type of the object that you're passing in. Okay. So model, employee, my namespace is the employee management 2, and go to models and reference it to employee. Okay. And in this case, you can see now we have all the IntelliSense that comes with the object because we have told the code that our object is of type employee. Okay, and now when we try to run this, you will see the same result, but with the benefit of having IntelliSense. So just to recap, we recommend to use the strongly typed way to pass in the data so that you have less error at compile time. Okay, so this remains the same, and just to prove that it still works correctly, it's showing it the results here. Okay, and so this I think is fairly straightforward. Any questions so far?
Nope, this is good.
Okay. So to access the model, we use a capital letter M, and at the top, we use the small letter m. Okay, let's move to view model. So part 26, we talk about view model. Okay, let me refer a little bit to the code here. All right, so you can see that now we have a mixture of things that we're passing into the view. We have view back page title, which doesn't have IntelliSense. It is just a short information here. And the rest of this is of type employee. So if we want IntelliSense in the rest of the page, we need something called the view models. So something between the model and the view. So to do that, we create a folder called View Models at the root of this project. New folder. We call it View Models. And within View Models itself, we can add a class called Home Controller View Models, I believe. Let me just double check. Oh, I said I was going to increase the size. I didn't. Let's increase it to 200. Okay. So this view models, home details view model, we will use this class to pass in the data, all the data that we want, including the page title and the employee data. So I'm just going to copy the code. Okay, I'll type it instead. I'm sure there are some shortcuts that you can use. And just a string for the page title. So that's it. That's all you need to do. All right. So this one is just a new class that we can use to pass in the detail. And if we go back to home controller, details, maybe it's a tiny bit big. We can now use the view models. First, we instantiate we make a new home details view model object, and we initialize it with the employee detail that we want, in this case, just the first employee. And we initiate as well the page title, employee details. Okay. And next we return this as a view, passing in this home details view model. Okay, this home details view model is also a model, so it can be passed as a parameter here. And now, because this object that we are passing in is a new one, we need to change the result here. I'm sorry, in the home details, employee details, to use the model view instead. View models, and home controller, home details view model. All right. So now you can see when we refer to the model, we have employee, and within employee, we can refer to the ID. Same goes for the email and the department.
Do we know what's the benefit of using view model instead of model?
So for the models, we have the models that reflect our data structure. So we have employee, but we don't have something like employee plus the page title.
Okay, so view
So
model is basically adding more details to the view.
yes, so all the details that we want to display in the view, we can add it here. So instead of using view back here, we can refer to the model.
Okay.
And now you can see we have the IntelliSense that tells you there is a page title property that you can use. Oops, I don't know why it came here. Dot page title.
Okay.
So yeah, again, the benefit here is that you have IntelliSense and type checking.
Yes.
Okay, and then when you run this, so this is a bit boring because it will just show you what you see before, but that's okay. We'll show you a bit later how to make this a list in the home page as well. It does load a bit slower when I'm using Zoom.
Yes, it happens when we are sharing our screen because of the bandwidth and the whole memory resource.
Yeah. Okay, so you can see we still have the information here as we want them, including the page
Yeah,
title.
that's great.
Okay. All right. So now we have covered the view model.
Mhm.
So we have created a new class to include the page title, and we return in the details view result, the actual instantiate, the object for the home details view model. Okay.
Yes, just to highlight here, one more benefit of view model is, let's suppose I have three different models in my same page. For the employee, I need to show some of his personal details and some of his professional details, and in my data structure I have two different tables for it. So I have two different models for it. So we can create one single view. Now for me it will get very difficult if on the same view I have to show two from the data from the two models. So view model also comes very handy. So here with the employee get employee, I can have like one more model, and I can also add its reference here, that public, let's say employee professional details, we have another thing. So we can add here. So in the view model I can also pass multiple model as well. So this way it helps us collaborate. So I just checked that. So I thought this could be this information can come
Yeah,
handy.
that's a very good point, Priyanka. Thanks for that. So for example, if I also want to show the department table
Mhm.
alongside with the employee table, I can do something like this.
Yes, exactly. And then we can just refer model.department.department name, let's suppose. So this is very nice for us when we have a complete view that my this view is going to refer four models. So I can create a view model which has the details of all those four models, and then we just pass that view model to the view.
Mhm. Okay. So any questions before we move on to the list view?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, now, so our home view was just showing Mary, so that's not very helpful. So we want to show all the employees in our company in the home view. Okay, so what we can do that using the list view, which involve the enumerable. So this is what it looks like. We have actually 3 employees in our company. All right, to do this, first we modify the iEmployee repository interface to include get all employees. Currently, we only have this function, get employee. All right, so now we want to include a get all employees, which is an enumerable in the collections generic namespace. Okay, and it returns a list of type employee. Secondly, we modify the mock employee repository to implement returning this list of employees. So mock employee repository implements employee repository. Actually, you can use the implement function a shortcut to actually create a skeleton for you. And what you need here is actually to return the list of employee here. That's all you need to do. And since this is now, we have this helper method, get all employees. Next thing we want to do is modify the home controller index function to return all the employees as a model. So now we have changed the models. We want to go to our controller, which is the home controller. Previously, we were modifying the details. Now we want to look at index. Index, previously you can see Mary because that's the first employee's name. Now we don't want that. We want a list. We want a list to retrieve all the employees. So we have the employee repository, which has been injected into our constructor and stored in this property here. So our property here, we have this new function, get all employees, and we can return it in the view as a model object. So now that we are not returning just a string, we need to change this to a view result. Okay, view result. And this is how we pass it into the views. All right. So next thing we need to do is modify the index cshtml to include the table using the for each loop. Okay, we have the code here. We have done this one. Let's look at the index, which we also have done, and the index view. This is what we need here for each employee. All right, so let's do that now. We look at index.html. So one thing I want to mention is when I create a ASP.NET Core web application, it actually comes with a lot of things for us not included in the previous .NET Core version. So you can see some extra things here, so don't worry so much about that. We will go through that one by one. So here, let me just remove this, and I'll paste in the code so that we don't have to watch me type out everything. The code looks something like this. Okay, so we have the IEnumerable employee. Okay. Oh, sorry, I'm in the second project, so the namespace is 2. So I have created a table with header, ID, name, and department. And here I'm using the for each. Okay, we use the alias for each var employee in the model, which is the list that we return, we're passing through. And for each of this, we create a row with 3 column cells, and we put ID, name, and department in it. Okay, so this is our new home. And when we run this, we should be able to see the list in the home view. So this is how we create a list view in ASP.NET Core MVC.
In fact, this is very similar to like normal MVC also. If you are doing an MVC in .NET framework, not exactly .NET Core, it's exactly the same. The view bag, this typed view, strongly typed in this whole for each list view, this kind of thing. This is exactly the same. So I have worked on MVC. I'm in fact currently I'm working on MVC. So I do not see much difference in all this view kind of working, that how we are differentiating. It's almost the same. In fact, I would say exactly the same. Maybe there would be a
Okay,
little difference in the routing and everything when we do, but the view controller thing, model thing, that doesn't change. So this is also going to be handy if you have to do an MVC application with .NET framework, not just .NET Core. It's exactly the same.
cool. So that this should be fairly familiar for those who have been developing using .NET Framework. All right, so now we have learned how to use the list view. We will move on to layout view. So most web application actually has header, footer, navigation, and view specific content. So it looks like this. The header is on top. We have menu, footer, and some specific content. In fact, this looks a little bit familiar to me when we were doing the Angular as well. I'm sure, yeah,
Yes.
we have similar things. So how do we create a layout view? We right-click on the views folder and add a shared. Okay, so instead of doing repeated code for home and details, you can see what we have in common in the home and details are things like HTML, head, title, and body. And what's different is only inside here, which is the content. So because we have repeated code here, we want to reduce the repeated code, and we create a shared folder with this file called layout. Okay, this is a bit different from the video that you see because this one is auto-generated for me when I create the ASP.NET web application. But you can see that what is different here is just a bit more style sheets and some jQuery and Bootstrap. If you're not using this, you can actually remove them. Okay, so if we just use the default, we can benefit from having the Bootstrap here. But don't worry, Bootstrap is also going to be covered in the later sessions. Okay.
Just for the people who are new to MVC idea, this whole thing, this layout thing is very similar to what we have as known as master pages in ASP.NET. So in ASP.NET also you have master page, so that your header, footer, and your menu and everything basically which has to remain constant for all the pages just remain same, and just the content in the between changes. So this whole thing is very similar to the master pages, so you can relate in your mind that what this is all about.
Mhm. Okay. So just create a shared folder and put inside the layout. And if you select the razor layout, it will create a kind of default for you. So how do we start using this layout view? We need to modify the details and as the index CSHTML, remove the HTML head and body tags, and include the layout file. Okay. So let me just refer to this. So in the video, you can see actually their layout CSHTML is much more simpler, but basically it is kind of the same. Mine is just with a lot of added extra, which we probably won't use. Okay, so now we are abstracting the HTML head and body, and inside one div, we will render the body, and this render body will be what we put in details and index. Okay. So to start using the layout view, we modify the details file to look like this. Okay. Let me go to the details file. All right. So we have all these HTML that we don't need because it's already specified in our layouts. And we need to specify this here, curly bracket. Okay, here we say the layout we want to use is this file and some additional info, which we probably won't need because we have the home details view model, but I'll just leave it in there. And same goes for the index. We remove everything that is common, that is already specified, and we include the layout, okay? Like this. Let's try to run this. Okay, So yeah, now you see that we have some extra things at the top, okay? Because our default layout actually includes a navigation section and some other things, okay? So that's, we have the footer and we have the navigation section. So all these come because we have these, all the extra code in the layout CSHTML. And let's move to the details to see what it looks like. And it looks like this. So you can see that the looks is slightly different because we have included the Bootstrap CSS here, not here, but at the top. Bootstrap CSS. But this is using the layouts file. It's very easy for us to have a consistent look and feel across our application, no matter whether it's the home page or the details page. And we only need to change in one location if we want to change, for example, our menu or our footer. Okay.
For people whom Bootstrap is a new word, Bootstrap is nothing but we can say it's the library of style library, which helps you to make your page portable. Like if you can design it so that it fits into the web, it fits into the small devices, it fits into your mobile application, into your tablets. So it helps you make your application. What's the exact word? Yes, see. So when she did her screen it itself. But ideally, if you do not use Bootstrap, this does not happen. You will have to write a lot of CSS for yourselves. So Bootstrap just adds to that. These classes which you see, navbar, container, and all, it works on the container system, grid system. Everything is divided into three blocks, and there you can add that you are designing it for large screen. So according to the media screen, basically, you can design your code. It's really easy and very nice and very important nowadays because everyone wants their website to work on every device. So
Yeah,
this Bootstrap is really important.
good point, Priyanka. All right. So now I've shown you how to use the layouts. Let me see if I missed anything. So we have a consistent look and feel and also behavior that we can set in one file for the entire web application. Yeah, like Priyanka said, it's similar to the master page in ASP.NET Web Forms. And the default name is this one, usually placed within this folder. And actually, one other thing that I haven't covered is that you can have multiple layout views. Is it here? I thought it's another one. Let me just double check over here if I missed anything. Nope. Nope, I haven't. Okay, we can move on to the next section, which is sections. A layout page can include a section which is optional or mandatory. Okay, so let's go back to this one to refresh ourselves. So we have different layout view like this. And over here, we have a view specific content. So actually any of this layout, we can have sections. A layout page can include a section which is optional or mandatory. Okay, so one example of this use is custom JavaScript files. So let's say I have in layout file, I have this section, render section scripts. Okay, I can either set this required equals to true, which means all of my files, here we have only index and details, will need to have this section scripts. Okay, if I run this now, I will generate an error on the home page because I haven't define this section called scripts in my home page. So I've gotten an error because it's complaining that the layout page cannot find the section scripts in the content index.cshtml. All right. So if I change this to required equals to false, that means that it is not mandatory. It's optional. Or do I need to save and refresh? Oh, I need to restart. Okay, so now it's loading without complaining that we don't have a script section in the home page. So what about the details page? Let's say I want to include this script for just the details page. I can do that by I'm sorry, I need the code snippets here from the web page. So this is the script that I want to put only in the details view. So what I do is here in the details CSHTML, I put a alias section, and inside there I put the script. So here is my details CSHTML. I put alias script section like this, and then I put inside the curly brackets scripts. Okay, like this. Alias section with the name of the section called scripts. Okay, this one needs to match with the layout. Here is scripts, so that it knows that this section is named scripts. And inside the curly bracket, we have the JavaScript file here. So because we say we are expecting to see a section here in the layout, but we say it is not required, so it's optional, all right? So when I run this, okay, I see there is a chat. Oh, Columbus Day. Is it a holiday tomorrow? Happy Columbus Day. All right. Okay. So now you see this is the home view. When I view the source, there's no script, custom script at the bottom here. But if I go to home details, with the employee details, I view the page source. I can see there is the script tag, JS custom script. So this is how you use the section. And it is useful if you want to say only certain pages, we want certain scripts to show. Okay. So let's have a look back at the notes. A layout page can include a section which is optional or mandatory. An example to use this is a custom JavaScript file. So, yep, we can say something like this, or we can say something like, if the section is defined, we require the script, otherwise, no. We just skip the whole thing. So we can also use this here in the layouts. So we have two options to specify this. We can do this as well. Okay. This is this function the same way as the one before, but this one has an extra checking to say only if the section is defined, we will include the script. Okay, so that's the sections covered. Sorry. Okay, let's move on to ViewStart. Okay, if you were with us yesterday in the Angular study group, you also come across a similar pattern here. So ViewStart is called every time for every view. And you can use this ViewStart CSHTML to save yourself from repeating a lot of code. Okay, so here the way we use ViewStart is that ViewStart, it was auto-generated for me, but I didn't put in any code. We can include the layout. Okay, so means if we have this one in our index, we do not need to specify this one anymore. In fact, let's remove the view back title because we're using the model. And same with details, we can remove this. Okay, so we only need to specify once in the view start that we want to use the layout file, and we don't need to repeat ourselves in each of the different views. Let's run this to see if everything still works as normal. Yes, so it loads. So just to recap, we are still getting the layout content, even though we are only specifying it in the view start. Okay. And another way to do this is that if you have special layout for admin and non-admin, you can actually use the if and else and specify different layout. Okay. So this is another common use of something you can do in the view start. So code in view start is executed before the code in individual views. So any common code that you see is being repeated, you can move it to view start. It reduces code redundancy and improves maintainability. Oh, and one other thing is that you can actually override. Let's say you have default code here, but you also have a view start in home. This view start will run instead of the common one. So if you have a generic set of layout for most of the code, you can put it in view start, and then if you decide to have something different in one of the views, you can override it in the folder like this. Okay. Now we come to the last section, which is view imports. It's kind of like the same, similar in concept as view start, but instead of importing layouts for each of the views, we are using it to keep all the imports, the using directive in one place in the view imports, so that you don't need to repeatedly specify in each of the view that you need to use the employee management namespace and also the models and so on and so forth. This is how you use the view imports. Okay, so that's the end of my session. So this is just a recap. We can use this view imports file to include all the common namespaces. And there are some other supported directives that you can use inside the view imports. Okay, for example, add tag helper, model, and inherits. So you can see in my code here, it has add tag helper, MVC tag helpers. This is automatically included for me when I generated the whole application. All right. We have 5 minutes left. Any questions so far? Or is this very easy for everyone? Let's have a look.
This was good. This is really a good and very clear session.
Okay. Um, yeah, it does help that we just had an Angular session that kind of revolves around some of the similar concept. And also you can see uh, some of the similar concept in .NET Framework as well. Any discussion people want to make from this? I guess I got an easier crowd today. No one asking me about database context.
Yeah. Yes, we have a question. Where are we referencing underscore view import? Can you please provide little more details on view imports?
Okay, view imports is it comes automatically when I generated this MVC web application. Mm, I think it is default. As long as you name it like this, ViewStart and View Imports, it is default. Correct me if I'm wrong. So let me refer back to here. View imports file is placed in the views folder. It includes common namespaces. Mm, so as long as you have these view imports spelled like this, cshtml file in the views folder, it will be called at the start. So ASP.NET will actually look here and import all these namespaces you list down here when it is rendering your pages. So you don't have the errors when you come here. So for example, if you remove this one, it will still not complain because we have already listed the using directive here. Okay, does that make sense? Same goes for index. Oh, sorry, details. So, okay, actually this one I can show you. If I remove this one, it will not recognize home details because I didn't import this one in the view imports. So I need to add this one in the view imports using employee management, or I can just paste it here. Okay, so now I'm also adding the view models. And when I go back to details views, it becomes green and it no longer shows the squiggly red line because now we have imported it here for all the files.
Yeah, he says thank you. That's good. I do want to add one more thing here. Earlier we for the next two sessions we had Zing Young volunteered for them, but
Mhm.
now he has told us that he has some office work and some tasks to finish, so he won't be able to make time
Okay.
to do the next two sessions. So the positions are open. Anyone want to volunteer? Please do.
All right.
Yeah, we can remove Zing name from here and from now. And anyone volunteering, please do that.
Maybe
But
Thomas.
actually, I just started a side job, so I work 60 hours.
Oh,
Let's see. Did we already cover what template you're using for this? Like when you created this, did you use a Visual Studio template or did you use a .NET Core
You
template?
mean this project?
Yeah.
yes, this ID is Visual Studio. Visual
No,
Studio
what
2019.
when you
Yeah.
created the project, when you created it, like when you did like a file new project,
Mm-hmm.
what template did you pick?
I use the,
SP.NET.
yeah. So when I create a new project, mm, again, it's loading quite slowly. ASP.NET Core Web Application.
Okay.
And Model View Controller. This is what I chose.
Oh, so that's a sub template.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So now we're at 10:31. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and stop the recording.